Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Zero event. I hope everyone can hear me. We're gonna go ahead and get started now. Sorry for the being late a couple minutes. You can use the chat screen to ask questions during the course of tonight's discussions. What we're going to start with is kind of a brief announcement of a couple things with Zero event, the upcoming weeks, and a new channel, a communication channel that we've started. Then we're going to go to the introduction to the platforms that we're going to look at this evening. We're going to look at Altspace, and we're going to look at Neos. So Dana will be talking briefly about what she's going to do in her workshop this evening, which starts at 6:30 Central European Time. And then Joris is going to talk about what you'll be able to see in NeosVR and what Neos is about. It's an interesting platform. Maybe not that many people have tried it yet. So he'll talk more about that. Can everyone hear me actually? Because I wonder, some of you can hear and some of you can't hear. Okay. So it looks like, okay, yeah. Thank you for everyone. So some of you might have individual speaker issues, but we'll get started here and just hope you guys can start to listen. So first announcement, next week, we're going to have a new platform. You might be familiar with Jay. He's a member of the Zero event community. He's attended many of the earlier sessions in weeks past. He's been working with the team on a platform called Ozone, and they're going to show it to us. We'll probably be the first people to see it. It's a development stage platform that they're getting ready to take commercial. So it'll be interesting to talk with him and ask him questions about that process. So that's next week. The week after that, it seems like we'll be seeing Sansar. We'll have a guided tour of Sansar. The following week, we'll have a guided tour and a discussion with the developer of Anyland, which is a very old but very successful content creation platform. And then following that, it looks like we'll be looking at spatial. So we have several weeks of events coming up with some new platforms, so we're all looking forward to that. Additionally, I have started a new Discord server for Zero events. Reason being, we've talked before about how WhatsApp is not always a great platform for having detailed discussions on lots of different subjects. So we'll still use WhatsApp, but for more detailed discussions, we now have a Discord server, which I'll be sharing a link for. You guys are all welcome to join, and you can suggest specific channels for specific topics that you want to focus on. Okay, so that's enough about Zero events, enough announcements. So I turn it over to Dana to talk about Altspace and what we're going to see tonight.
Okay, so thank you so much. So what I do today, so I would like to give you some history. Since last year, I'm involved with the Educators in VR, and I'm the team leader of the virtual reality coaching and personal development track there. Educators in VR is founded by Daniel Dubosky Bryant and Laurel van Vossen, and I'm co-organizing events there every week and workshops. So and I can teach you this in this workshop. I can teach you together with Nick van Breda. We are teaching people how to do this, organizations in the Netherlands, and we teach you today about how to put a PowerPoint presentation into an event space, how to choose worlds, what kind of worlds are good for which workshops or presentations, and how you can develop them, create them, and also how you can create event spaces. And we can go along with the questions in which you have and tell you all about it. So it's 3 set goals. So how to create events, how to create worlds, and how to put a PowerPoint presentation. What do you have to think about, and to answer your questions there. So we love you to be there. What time was it again? 6:30?
Yes, 6:30.
Yeah. Until 7. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Dana. All right, now I want to give it over to Joris. Joris is going to tell us about Neos because they have a very exclusive platform guide this evening. Not everybody will be able to join it. In fact, it's going to be an exclusive set, and he's going to talk more about that. Joris, are you ready? He's accepted and he's connecting, so hopefully he'll be on here in just a second.
Is that a cat?
Yeah, I have 2 cats, and probably one will be jumping up onto the screen in just a second. Let's see. Joris seems to be having some problems connecting. I thought he was connected before. Let me. Yeah. He's having problems with his camera. Okay. So let's try one more time. We had it working earlier today, these new technologies. Here we go. Okay. All right, Donna, I'm going to take you back into the main group. Okay. All right, Joris, are you there with us? Yeah, okay. All right, Joris, you're on screen. Well, we can't hear you, unfortunately. Your microphone is muted. Can you say something now? You're still muted. Oh, okay, all right. Okay. Joris? Yeah, we're having, yeah, I don't know. We had it working just a couple hours ago, but Joris, we can't hear you. Okay, all right. Joris, maybe what we can do, we can go ahead and jump to the panel a few minutes early. We can test out some of these other things. We can test out your microphone before we finish, but maybe we can go ahead and jump to the panel. Yeah, okay. So yeah, on that note, so sorry for the technical difficulties. We had it working earlier, so I'm not sure what happened, but stuff like that does happen sometimes. So let me go ahead and bring up our panelists, and I'll introduce them once they're all on screen here with us. So I've sent you all invitations. Okay.
I'm in.
All right. This is Sylvia Pan from University of London Goldsmiths.
Okay, once I no longer see you.
Yeah, my video is not on because it'll be just you.
Oh, so I just know. And Lance, hi.
And then we have Lance
Hi.
Powell, social VR expert and content creator. And we're just waiting for Richard Ward, global lead of enterprise VR at McKinsey Company. So I welcome all 3 of you.
We can't hear Richard.
Your microphone is muted. Let me unmute you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you now. Yeah. Okay, great. So thank you all for coming. So the way we'll do this for the audience, we'll start out with some kind of short questions, and then we'll get into maybe some longer ones. But the audience can be suggesting questions through the Ask a Question option down at the bottom of the screen. So let me go ahead and start off. So actually, before I do that, let me share my screen because I want our audience to see some examples of what social VR avatars are, so that when we're talking about them, they have some kind of reference point. So let's go ahead and it looks like I can't do that. Hold on one second. Lance, hold on. Let me take you off 1 second. Apparently, when you share screen, it's a 4th person. 1 second. I'll bring you right back in. Okay, so here are some examples of different types of avatars. that you see in different platforms. So we have these simple humans. We have slightly more cartoonish humans that may be more realistic cartoon, or more humanistic cartoon, or even far more abstracted cartoons. We have just the head and shoulders avatar design, which is common. We have sometimes just head even, rather than shoulders. Then we have the extremes of super simplified humanoids with little expression, in something like Verbella. And then we have something like VR chat, which is anything goes, any type of avatar. We have these more high fidelity type of, and when I say high fidelity, I don't mean the platform, but these more realistic humanoids and Engage and Sansar. And then going back to really abstracted types of avatars that you see in some of these other platforms as well. So I share these just as a quick reference point for everyone. These are some examples of different avatar designs. And so that should make it clear some of the stuff that we're talking about. So let me bring Lance right back in. And I'm going to ask to all of you, what are some features that you've liked among these different avatar designs that you've seen? What are features that you like, that that sell you on the experience?
I think maybe I will start. What features I like? I think I really like, for instance, in Altspace, the simplicity. There's really very basic features, but because the bandwidth of the internet infrastructure only supports so much, so there's so much data you can actually sort of traffic at one time. So there's no point having a sophisticated avatar if you don't have much animation you can apply on the avatar. And I think another feature I actually like, which almost goes against what I just said, is in Engage, where it's kind of more business-like. I can actually have my own face on the avatar. I think Spatial I/O now allows you to do this as well, which I think in a business context, it works really well, because when I go into a room, I really need to quickly identify who's who do I need to talk to, who has entered the room, who has just left. All this information, I don't have to actually read their names. I can just see their faces, and of course, there's faces so much quicker than having to read names.
Okay. Yeah. Richard or Lance, any other features that?
Yeah.
Like?
Well, I think the so by the way, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
We can all hear you.
Yeah.
So I think the main thing is the features are all context specific, based on what you're trying to, what the framework for trust is between the participants. So if you are, thus if you don't need to establish trust with anybody, you can be anything, right? That's where VR chat comes into it.
Yeah.
Is that it's a zero consequences world, right? You can be as racist as you want and there's no consequences. You can be as violent as you want and there's no consequences. So as such, the representation of yourself is not the representation of yourself, because there's not a real name requirement. So nobody can find you. Right. So as they say, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. Well, the flip side is you can be a dog and nobody knows who you are. Right. And there's no consequences, because there is a zero trust framework, or I would say a trust not required. So not a zero trust, but a trust not required framework. And by the way, I'm talking about VR chat, just for those who are asking about it. That's a world where it's literally anything goes. OK, now. The thing is that, like, if you are talking about a business context where money is involved, trust is incredibly important, because nobody wants to get ripped off and nobody wants to have their money stolen. Nobody wants to work with criminals and all that sort of stuff. And so that's where you're finding that I think the more business-oriented platforms, so things like Spatial and Engage and all of those, are going for that sort of facial selfie photo-based representation, because the trust really matters. There's something important on the line here, which is money. And as such, you need to be able to establish that you are working with people that you can trust and can consistently work with. So I think, the challenge is going to be sort of like that spectrum of things of, if you're working in a group, like let's say a work group that meets 3 times a day, every single day, then you probably, one of the intermediate systems like Glue or something like that has got kind of like representative, but not like photographic fidelity, so that when I look at the avatar, I can see that it's the people that I recognize when I talk to them and those things. That probably works just fine, because the trust framework is everybody in the room are people that I see all the time, and strangers cannot show up. So there's no imposter syndrome problems and stuff like that, and fraud. So I mean, that's a long answer, but I think the feature functions element highly depends on what is the trust framework of the social interactions.
Okay, Lance.
Okay, so it's my first time talking. How do I sound?
You sound good. Yeah, better than normal.
Fantastic. Fantastic. We had a failed test earlier. Okay, so I agree with Richard that the avatar should be an extension of your goal for being on the platform is, like whether it's recreational, social, or business oriented. But I think of the universality of all of those with regard to motion and movement within avatars. Because over the week, there was this extended discussion of realism versus stylized avatars and how those meet certain goals. And there's a place for both of them, at least in my mind. But I think motion is important for all of them. Like there has to be some sort of like a mouth or eye movement to show what's going on. To show that you're talking to another person and not just a piece of wood. So Sylvia, for example, talked about Altspace, and I'll praise them as well because in their big update a few months back, they included blinking eyes for the avatars and like very minimal lip movements as you're talking to somebody. But it is comforting to see that. To see that whoever you're talking to is animate. So we're psychologically wired to respond to those things.
Okay, well that kind of feeds into the next question. When you're encountering an avatar, what type of things catch your eye and maybe take you out of that or distract you from that social interaction? What feature or lack of feature it just kind of breaks it?
So I will start again, if you don't mind. So I feel that at the moment, social VR for me is more like an extended telephone conversations. I feel like the strongest feature in social VR is still actually the voice, because we don't even see people's faces. And actually but we do have kind of this spatial feeling in it. So I can gesture, if I can be involved in a group conversation, I can, use the group dynamics, the physical dynamics. And also it's really convenient to have kind of a 3D spatial setting so that we can have spatial audio, so we can then break into small groups more naturally so than you can even have on the Zoom conversation. So going back to what is actually more disruptive, I feel that facial expression is definitely something that is missing, partially because we don't really have the capacity to do more at the moment, right? I mean, we can only go so much now that we're driving, even when you go into VR with the most high-end VR headset, you're only just sending 6 off information from 3 trackers, and that's it. And obviously with Vive Pro Eye, adding eye tracking and lip tracking, maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, you'll see really interesting, rich facial expression there as well. But I doubt there'll be more people having access to these high-end devices, because we're still talking about £3,000 to buy a Windows machine together with £1,000 equipment and with all the added sort of other things as well. But at the moment, most people I meet in social VR, I think they have access thanks to Oculus Quest, right? And we're talking about £400 or £500 here. So I think facial expression is something that's really missing at the moment, but I do think there is a sort of a cheap way of doing it. If I have the option, for instance, to press a button, just like how I use emojis to send a sort of facial expression, I think that will make the whole social interaction a lot more smooth. So for instance, the other day I was on Engage platform, and we were actually had a party. We were like it was one of the most brilliant party I've been to. So there was a friend of mine who used a 360 video camera, captured a sort of a real concert in Guangzhou. And because the camera was right in the front of the stage and everybody was kind of dancing, and it was such a great atmosphere. I was just so deprived of parties. And in the end, we decided to take a selfie, and I was so happy. I put a massive smile on my face. And then I realized, why am I doing it? It's not going to be taken in that VR selfie. But I think these are the features that we desperately need as part of the social interaction. And I don't think it's that difficult to implement. And the moment, another thing is the eye. I feel the eye is a bit empty because most of them don't have sort of actual pupil we can actually move. But I think I understand why they left it that way, because with eye you can actually get it really wrong, and it would be creepy if you don't get it right. So yeah, that's my short answer for this question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the one of the people in the comments talked about, certainly I think the facial element of it. I mean, as mammals, we're highly tuned for fight or flight reasons to pay attention to whether someone's talking to me specifically or not, or who are they talking to. And so that, the directionality of the face certainly helps. The who is talking or not, which, the having some sort of, even if it's not perfect, but just some sort of mouth movement and all that stuff. I found that with the eye tracking is pretty interesting. The Engage, they've got an algo that actually makes it look like they're looking at you, but it's smart enough to not give you like serial killer eyes that it's just staring at you with a laser. It actually kind of drifts around a little bit, but you get the idea that it's looking at you, which I think is a good thing. But where one of the comments points out, I mean, one of the things that's very distracting is the fact that is arms, right? Hands, I think, are okay. So you've got like, mitten hands with maybe, 2 just things. Then when you go to hand tracking, we'll be able to have, like finger hands, but arms seems to be like a problem. And so you end up with situations where somebody puts their controllers over here, you've got somebody who's got arms like this while they're in VR, and you just kind of, it looks almost like a Korean horror movie, when they always have the upside down people running around and stuff like that. And I think it throws everybody off. So I think the body tracking element of it, there's always a lot of inference that's going on, because if you're not using full body tracking, because I believe IK is kind of like the way to talk about it, but it runs into a lot of kind of like weird things. And I think they probably need to put some sort of like boundary algorithms on there, that there are just unnatural arm shapes that are not allowed. That will kind of like there's only a boundary in what your arms can do. But then again, I'm not the developer, so I don't know.
Yeah, I am a bit of a developer, and I think that's quite a simple problem to fix with IK. If you have the hand position, I think there are restrictions you can put in the angle, and yeah, I think we can very easily get away with it. It's a developer problem.
Yeah, I agree that you need clever solutions for this problem, because like there are a lot of muscles in the face and a lot of information to keep track of. So that we can understand emotionally what's happening. But if I could share a visual very quickly, that shows just how some stylized platforms use visual language to express the same thing. Maybe not as well, but they're doing their best.
Okay, Lance, if you wanted to share it now, we have to take somebody out. We can only have 4 people, four video feeds.
Okay.
That's a big problem.
Okay, never mind. I'll describe it to you. So in Altspace, which I mentioned already, they have emojis that you can send up. So yeah, you can click on a happy face, a sad face, or whatever. But you can also do the same with Rec Room, which actually has facial expressions which map onto keyboard. Like emoticons. I always mix up emojis and emoticons. So like you might have like kind of 2 dotted eyes and like a round line, which looks like something you would put in an SMS message or something like that. So what's needed to have a powerful use of expression is a good visual language. That the developers concoct, like, and if you are more oriented toward realism, then yeah, an algorithm would be needed until we get some kind of motion capture available to everyone.
That makes me, I think about, I think you both kind of, Lance and Sylvia, touched about like these triggered facial expressions and controlling that, and it makes me think that when hand tracking becomes a standard, Sylvia, you mentioned like pressing a button, but in that case, you would have to have some type of hand gesture. And so it makes me think that maybe you would start to see more pairing of like thumbs up or hand gestures that pair with the facial expression. And that could be really great, or, could be become more cliche, because it wouldn't be something subtle. It would now require perhaps more, like overemphasizing that. But still, maybe we'll see something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, but
Well,
I think one thing I wanted to say is that I think the less, the more natural, the better, right? I don't want having to put a happy face. I don't want having to select a happy face. If I can just do a gesture, as you said, or gesture-free interaction like Crest has enabled, I think that would be the most natural thing to do, linking this with a happy face or this with a funny face, right? But I think it's, but then actually when I do this in the Crest, my hand will disappear. The gesture interaction will actually disappear. So there's a lot we can explore, but I just really think in order to actually have more, because social VR wouldn't be there if we don't have enough users, which we don't have the market. But in order to really have it really accessible for most people, we have to make these interactions as natural as possible, as controller free as possible.
So I think we're going to end up is that we're all going to become little Harry Potters, right? We're going to have these little magic spell gestures that represent certain things that the facial recognition kind of picks up on, and it'll be assumed that if you do this, it's not, you know, a thumbs up bubble will appear above your head, and if I do that really quick, then, you know, it'll be like 35 hearts, you know, just like we do in Altspace at the moment. So I think what you'll see is that if you were to watch the people with like the headsets in a room, they'll be talking and doing gestures. I call this the Italian hands problem, right? Being able to gesture and talk and point this out of the other. But then every now and then I'll throw down some magic spells, right? You know, I'll give you one of these, I'll throw in a heart, and then, you know, and then some devil hands, and, you know, and thus some augmented reality in VR things will happen around me.
Yeah, totally. I think we'll have the sign language for VR that everybody can learn really quickly. That would be the next big thing. I really like that.
Yeah, Lance?
Yeah, it is putting the burden on the individual user to learn this new kind of sign language, which represents your facial expressions or your emotions of the time. So there is a role also for sentiment analysis of your voice, like tracking the tone of voice to know whether you're happy, sad, bored, or whatever. So this can't be ignored also.
What also, you mentioned, Richard, the Italian as a reference for the hand gestures, and it makes me think, you know, VR being fairly global, but certainly kind of concentrated in certain regions of the world. It'd be interesting to see if hand gestures and cultures of expression become homogenized, you know, become a global separate, you know, form of communication, or become very Western or very Chinese, even just wherever the dominant, most popular user base is or something.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, emoji, we have different set of emoji on WeChat than the ones we normally have. And you know, they overlap probably 50-60%, but there are just emotions that I can find, emojis in emotion I can find in WeChat I can't find with my iPhone. So yes, there's definitely, but for instance, talking about the demographic of VR, social VR users, actually VR chat, I think the majority of users are from the US, but actually the second and the third countries are from Korea and Japan. Yeah, so it's already kind of quite mixed culture, and maybe, you know, I think actually the culture difference between different countries is actually smaller than the culture difference between younger and older generations. So that's something, maybe the younger generation, there'll be less culture difference, you know, across different countries because of all this technology. So.
Yeah. So I'm now on to the next question. Our last short question. Now we're going to start getting into long ones after this. But what is your ideal personal avatar look like? You know, kind of, you know, assuming that your preferred use case, how you most prefer to use it, what does your avatar look like? Is it really different than you, or is it identical to you physically?
I think, like, as Richard said, there are two different contexts. One is for trust oriented. I like my engaged avatar where I can actually have my face. So whatever link I was able to create in that environment, I feel that I can actually carry over that relationship, that trust into real life situations should we ever meet physically, and that's consistent as well. But actually, my personal favorite, I really like my Altspace avatar, which is a robot, pink, and I just really like that level of abstraction. And also, the avatar only has hands; she doesn't have arms. So I said her because she's pink, you know. But it's actually really gender neutral. I actually also think that because my avatar is quite gender neutral, I wish I could have a gender neutral voice in Altspace. And I think it's something quite easy to do, right? There's, voice manipulation softwares could be interpreted. There's I should really be gender neutral or be able to do that quite easily technically. So that would be my ideal avatar. A gender neutral, really different, because, especially with lockdown, I really enjoy being something else to enrich my life a little bit now.
Rec Room has that. You can change the tone of your voice to gender neutral.
Oh, okay, cool. Good to know. Rec Room.
So actually, my answer is going to be perhaps be a little provocative. I want the avatar that gives me the maximum competitive advantage in whatever situation I'm in. So, well, okay, but let's think about this. But let's think about the real world. This is the second derivative of your. Hey, I'd like my voice to be a little more gender neutral. It's like, okay, we've all been in situations where taller men are more aggressive to shorter women when negotiating about money. It's the classic, why do women not like going to auto repair shops? Because they're pretty sure they're going to get bullied into buying things they didn't want. Or, it's a perfect, the world is let's start with the world is unfair, right? Mm-hmm. Now, and we recognize there are mechanisms of unfairness, and most of those mechanisms of unfairness in our personal representation are sort of physically bound to a set of molecules at the moment. Mm. Now, once we move to VR, all bets are off, right? People can modify the parameters such to either remove or add advantages thereof. And we've had situations where when we had some VR meetings, and actually one of our female participants asked that the height of all the avatars be only plus minus 2 inches of an agreed to average. That you didn't have people being like, a full head, full head taller or even more than other people, that everyone was kind of like in a plus minus range of about 2 to 2.5 inches. Same thing for, situations on other stuff, because this was a serious business discussion we were getting into, and they just didn't want to have that kind of like situation advantage, kind of like, aggressiveness or whatever you want carried over into this environment, because it didn't need to happen. And that was kind of like a delay. That was like a request we went to. And so I think if you look at a variety of situations, I think you're going to find that over time, depending on what the environment is, there will be this kind of homogenization, right? Do we end up having that when money is involved? And I know I keep coming back to money, but I'm the money guy, right? I spend all my time with corporations and things. But when money is involved, do you end up having things like a homogenization to an average height, plus, a somewhat androgynous facial construction, that it's not really determined that if it's male or female, that ethnicities start getting blended out into kind of like the gray alien view. I mean, one of the jokes I have is that we're going to end up be like, 50 shades of Tilda Swinton. She's kind of like this, and so, but it then comes down to, and then voice modification and all of those things, so that when we talk to each other, it's like a human version of email, because nobody can tell your gender from your email notes, generally speaking, or age or any of those things. So do we end up in this kind of VR world of a kind of this neutral representation, because there is something at stake, right? There is it's a zero-sum game, and somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose unless they're able to kind of reach to a mutually agreed situation, and no one thinks they're doing it the other way. Now, as soon as you go, just like going to a Halloween party, right? If I'm going to go to a social environment and go have a lot of fun and do whatever, I want to be expressive, right? There's not a zero-sum game involved here that's going to affect other things offline. So it's a case like, hey, if I want to be a space rabbit and you want to be, an anime character, and somebody, cool, that's fun. We all see each other and that kind of a thing.
Yeah, Lance, go ahead with your.
No, I'm trying to decide whether to respond to your question or Richard's statement about competitive advantage.
Feel free to do whatever. Actually, keep it organic.
No, I'll just answer your question for now. So what I look for in an avatar across social VR platforms is access to facial hair. So, so there has been some discussion within the group about consistency of avatars across social VR platforms. Like, would it be possible to export your avatar from one platform to another, which is minimally possible with a few of them. But
today,
today, yeah,
today.
So
that will be a standard. I mean, it's impossible that that's not going to be something you can do 5 years from now.
Well, I mean,
broadly, yes, not universally, maybe, but broadly, it would be possible. So, with the situation as it is, you can only rely on certain markers of your identity, and for me, it's just I enjoy having facial hair, so I want my avatar to have a beard, and if I go to a platform that doesn't give that to me, I feel slighted. So, but this is a very minor point and unimportant, but it is a marker of wider ideas about identity, like whether it's gender, racial identity, or even body type, because everybody has a gender, race, and body type, and not everybody is represented across platforms. So if a platform gives you wide access to these things, it is a feature I enjoy, because in the same way I want my beard and don't want to be slighted, I don't want someone else to be made ashamed because they feel their body is non-standard. But I, on top of that, enjoy more creative expressions of identity that don't actually have to do with body. So, for example, if a social VR platform has a lot of clothes, like it just has a very big wardrobe, and you can express yourself that way rather than through body type, then that's something that's a big bonus for me. I really enjoy that.
Okay. So
can I just add one thing that about the beard? Just as a developer, that is so much easier than this. And I haven't found anywhere I can have long hair, because I understand the technical challenges. But when I can have my hair, you can have your beard.
Guys, the answer is very simple. Get rid of the hair and the beard.
No.
Are you an avatar or are you real?
Yeah,
no.
Well, by the way, I do think, you know, the avatar consistency across platforms, it's basically what happened with the web with TrueType fonts. I mean, we had this problem with font at one point. You couldn't move fonts from place to place to place consistently. And so then TrueType and some other ways became around where you can move fonts from, if I write with font A and I want you to see that font when you get it, it's all built into the system now. And so, I mean, the thing that I think is going to happen is also is that you're going to have avatar representational files that are blockchain certified. Because, you know, if you think deep fakes, faking people on videos causing problems, you know, or people sending you fishy emails and stuff like that is a problem, wait till we get to kind of like the metaverse and people are representing themselves as Richard Ward. And how do you certify that you're actually talking to Richard Ward, you know, and that type of stuff.
I mean, those are good points, but I'm not sure if I agree with the font avatar analogy here, because I think the social VR platforms are probably more analogous to social platforms now. And your Facebook and your LinkedIn share a lot, but they don't, you know, it's not like you have one profile that ports over to all these different platforms. And I think avatars are a little bit more like that. You know, I think for platforms that are part of maybe a shared ecosystem, because some platforms do, I think, have integrations. You can import and export information, but you know, the platforms make that choice. It's not a standard.
Yeah, there's the more dynamic features.
But that's all going to be all about power, right? I mean, I actually would like my one profile to be consistent across LinkedIn and Facebook and this, that, or the other. But they won't. They were able to build up enough of a network to basically maintain that differently. That's why I have different user IDs for these platforms. But there's not a lot of advantage to what I want to do with that. I'm the same person across these things for those. So it's a case of if a standard for avatar portability pops up, and some platforms decide to adopt it in order to gain the reach faster than others, then there's the chance that that's what becomes the standard. Right now, if you end up with 5 walled gardens that fight with each other and don't want to allow portability between them, then yeah, maybe you won't.
Sylvia, did you have something? Well,
no, I agree with you. I think on this that is, fonts are very easy. You can have their size is quite small as well, but there's more diversity in avatars. So there's so many different ways that, and also the appearance of the avatar is just the underlay of the behavior you can then have on top. And all this, there's so much sort of coding sort of in between. I felt is more difficult to. I don't think the next 5 years will kind of actually come into a standardized set of avatars. I think it's going to take longer, if ever. And I think they're more platform dependent, because that also then depends on the equipment as well. What kind of features can you collect to actually enable real-time animation of the avatar, and then that fit back into how you design the appearance. So
but that's TrueType fonts. TrueType fonts deprecate up and down based on the render capability of the final viewer, right? And so you would say, hey, look, this is the Richard Ward avatar. And if you're running an 8K system off of a cloud compute unit with 35 GPUs, you get to see this. But if you're just running it, off of a 10-year-old Samsung phone, you're going to see something that looks like Altspace.
Yeah, well, business opportunity there then. Do you want to start a company on that? Count me in.
I've already talked to some people about doing it. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
So we touched on a couple.
By the way, I also think that people have. By the way, I also personally believe that people have wardrobes, right? Meaning that you will have this kind of like, if you will, a matrix of, hey, I have multiple, let's say, feature avatars, and then I will have a wardrobe, just like a closet of skins, if you will, for the clothing and the accessories and all of that stuff. And I think that people will have that because. You will decide that, hey, when I'm in, let's say, VR chat, I really do want to be some crazy anime thing, that is disciplined. And for that particular kind of physical representation, I would like to have 17 different costumes, but it is still a giant robot, or whatever it is. Versus, but there's this consistency up and down the road that Richard Ward is the signed blockchain owner across these things, and I can reveal that or not, but that allows me to maintain the control so people can't clone and steal my stuff. I personally believe you're going to see things like, very famous designers selling something like, if you can make the blockchain, and I pick on blockchain, if you can make a cryptographically secure way that if I spend $10,000 on a custom Chanel avatar that nobody can clone, there will be people that will spend that money,
I think that's probably already the case on VR chat. I don't know. I'm sure I've heard crazy money has been spent on social VR, so maybe that's already the case.
Yeah, they have a marketplace. Yeah, certainly. And there might be a good early example of what you both have been referring to, Richard, and then Sylvia, you were coming in and agreeing at the end, where they accept a standard base model. There's a rigging that's accepted that this is a standard. And I get that's maybe the underlying thing, Richard, that you're referring to in today's current state of avatars, is that there's an accepted method of rigging them for a certain basic type of animation. Whether it can scale up and down according to capabilities right now, I'm not certain, but they do have a certain just basic rigging that these platforms know how to interpret and know what to do with. So we've touched on a number of these different topics. So I don't want to repeat a question that we've already been discussing to some extent, but going back a little bit to something that Lance was talking about with the body types, for example. Most of the platforms that we see, whether trust is there or not, we see a very standard type of body. Everyone is kind of slim. No one's really overweight. There might be some hair options or not, but the balding is not usually a standard one, for example. In some cases it is, but not in others. How well do you think these body types are really being? Maybe that's not the question. I've already answered that. Why is it that you think that we don't see many of these different types of body types on offer, particularly among the social VR platforms. Because I guess in a business case, you might say it serves a purpose. Richard, you might have already kind of established that there's a social benefit to not having those available. But among these other broader use cases, why do you think we don't see these options available?
I think it could be just a technical problem, because the more body shape you offer and the more meshes and models, 3D models you have to load, and makes your application bigger. And also, the more types of 3D graphics you have to deal with. Maybe your code would fail at some shapes. You have to test everything. Every time you change anything, you have to test everything. And social VR, I think, at least for sort of mainstream, not VR chat, and also people live on VR chat, and they have a very different perspective. But if you're talking about Engage and Altspace, which lots of us actually use that for either entertainment, social, or business purpose, it's still at its infancy. So I think over time there will be more choices for sure, but for now it's just a matter of how long does it take to load the application when you put the headset on, and having less choice makes that time slightly shorter. I think that's one. And also one, I think it's also limited by the kind of tracking capacity we have with standard VR headset. If you can only animate like 3 points of your avatar, like both hands and your head, right? So the animation kind of only works with certain sort of body shape. And that's kind of, there's less sort of to play with in terms of different body shapes. But actually in VR chat, I know lots of people actually buy extra vibe trackers to put on their hips and on their feet, because dance moves are incredibly critical. So I think in that space, it's all about body shape, right? So I think that's probably right. It's a technical reason.
Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts?
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm an incredibly vain person. I'm about 15 kilograms heavier than I want to be. Why would I make my avatar look like me now? That's not who I want to look like right now either. But I love ice cream, so I have a fundamental problem. It's like,
but then when we see you, when we get used to your avatar and we meet you for real, I'll be so disappointed.
You're never going to meet me for real.
So you live on the metaverse. Okay, that's fine.
No, but but really, come on, think. Even on this Zoom meeting, the three of us are probably never going to meet in real life, even though we've been on this Zoom thing.
Oh, that's
we
sad.
might.
Yeah.
We might. But we probably won't unless we make an extraordinary effort to do so. And so, if you're then worried that I'm catfishing you with my VR avatars, you only need to look at Instagram. That's going on right now without VR being involved.
Interesting, because sorry, Lance.
No, go ahead. Go on.
No, I just wanted to say, I don't know, because most of the time I use social VR, I actually have the strong intention to or Zoom meetings, I have the strong intention to say, hey, let's have a drink together at some point after all this. We just feel this is a temporary situation. And my normal work of mode is most people I work with, I see them physically at least, some point in life. So I'm still, optimistic, and I really enjoy face-to-face interaction, and I really look forward for this lockdown to end. That's all. Sorry.
So one of the main criticisms lobbed against VR chat is that a lot of the characters, especially feminine characters, are very highly sexualized, and they reinforce like perceived mainstream values of body types, and it tends to alienate people. And when you force people to embody those types of avatars, it's somehow more insulting. If this has been a persistent issue throughout your real life, so it can leave some people out just because you reinforced negative societal norms. So when you look at other social VR platforms like Altspace, you will see a standard body type for men and women, but I've even heard women complaining that Altspace avatars have perfectly round faces, but the male avatars have kind of square faces. Yeah, and a lot of people don't pick up on that first. I actually had to have someone say that to me, and then I just noticed, like, okay, you're right. It's like, what if you're a woman and you have the square jaw? Like, how do you feel now? Alienated. So yeah, this inclusion can be overlooked. Some people, as a compromise, and including Sylvia, I guess, like just go for robotic avatars because they are our closest mechanical cousins to humans. So so it works as a compromise, but a lot of us still will prefer to be human, but we want to be represented as humans.
But as you said, that the square jaw, that is definitely a dominant feature. It actually proven to be like people react to it that way as a dominant feature. So you're really right. Altspace is probably unintentionally emphasizing the stereotype, but I'm happy I'm a robot there, so it's a good choice for me.
Right.
All right.
But that gets into this this really interesting thing, is that like our own molecular representations, we have some flexibility on what we can do with it, certainly in a short period of time. But on the VR stuff, of course, it's just pixels, man. You can be anything you want. And so but you do find that in situations where people can be anything you want, like VR chat, it's not always a very pleasant, people are not always very pleasant people, right? I mean, it's, I mean, that's the one lesson. That's the one lesson that we're finding out from basically the explosion of the internet, is that we have this kind of rosy view of the past, that we thought everybody was nicer in the past for some reason, and that's because we go back and watch television or we read newspapers. But of course, the thing is that back in the old days, there were only 5 television stations, for example. So there was a group of about maybe 100 people deciding what actually went on television. And they certainly didn't decide to put on there all the crazy stuff that people really want to say and talk about on the street, right? They're like, no, we're not going to put that on television. I only have 60 minutes to cover what's going to happen in the world today. We're not going to put this crazy stuff out there, right, on my national broadcast. But now with the internet, right, everybody has their own television station. And everybody has their own, newspaper and everybody else. And surprise, surprise, turns out people, they're not nice. There's a lot of not nice people. And especially if you allow them anonymity, the ability to be anonymous greatly brings out the potential for cruelty in people. And so that's where, you go to VR chat. And I got to tell you, if half the VR chat sessions I went to happened in the real world, most of those people would be in jail.
Yeah, well, it's a separate issue, but the major platforms like especially Rec Room and VR Chat, who are like just have a massive user base, they also have a system of keeping all of your interactions private, like among people that you know, because whenever you go into a public space, you're taking a gamble with what's going to happen, which is often a lot of unpleasantness.
But I don't take that. But I don't take that same gamble when I go to the shopping mall.
Yeah.
No.
Just want to,
yeah, but you have to. But you have to in these social VR platforms.
But that's the point, is that there's no repercussions, because there's no connection to the repercussion engines, right? If you're truly anonymous, that's why going into a public space in VR chat is a generally unpleasant experience if you're a noob who's not used to that sort of thing, right? Versus, I send my 14-year-old down to the local shopping mall. I'm really not worried about them being assaulted 35 different ways,
Right. No, but what I'm saying is the social VR platforms, like there's a way to get away from those crowds by connecting with people that you directly know, but you cannot, in the same way, create a private shopping mall just for yourself. So that's what I meant. Yeah.
Maybe if we had some time.
But then you're creating the bubbles and the echo chambers that we all say we were hoping VR would like break down, and why can't we all meet new people and be nice to each other?
Were we saying that?
Well, yeah, like the intention of social media, yeah. But I just wanted to add one thing. Like, I think people need to also, because I think Richard made that point that if you can choose your avatar, you would choose the one who has the biggest advantage on social VR platform. But I think it's also important to know that on a platform like that, people know your intention. People know that you intentionally chose the one with the biggest advantage. And that's actually different from just, the choice of, well, it's actually the same as choice of clothing, right? So it's not only that you had advantage, but it's also your intention is they're exposed to people, and that basically doesn't really give you the true advantage you would otherwise have in real life.
Yeah. I mean, if everybody has access to all the available body types, then what Richard mentioned earlier about getting a high brand, very expensive outfit, like would still be there, like as a way to project status within the platform. So
like on World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
In World of Warcraft, right? You're either demonstrating your capabilities that you earned, or you paid somebody for it.
Yeah, but it depends again on the purpose of the platform. If it's like VR chat, then that's a different story. But if you go into a business meeting and you put your, I don't know, some fancy, expensive body type on, then people just will think that you're vain, right? So.
All right, guys. Well, so we're out of time for this portion of the panel, but I want to invite everyone to follow the discussion on to spatial.chat. I've shared a link here in the crowd. So this is going to be a place for breakout conversation. So you guys, I mean, the panelists can position themselves either together or separately, depending on whether they kind of want to let people ask them questions following up things that they've said, or if panelists want to discuss further your own questions with each other.
I think, I would be keen to stay with you guys for at least another 2 minutes to wrap up.
Okay.
Then we can break into
So just to clarify, we're going to click on that link and then leave this one, the crowdcast thing?
Yeah, but one more second. So we had a problem with Joris having audio issues. So I wanted to give Joris one last opportunity before we finish up. I'll put you guys back into the main attendee list. So Joris can talk about NeosVR briefly, and then we'll all move over to spatial.chat, and we'll continue there until 6:30 Central European time, when the Altspace workshop will start. And then those who want to go to Altspace can. Those who want to stay and continue conversing in spatial.chat, you can. So what spatial.chat does, kind of the name suggests it, it's a 2D browser like Zoom, except you can move your video feed, you can move your icon around, and there's spatial audio. You won't hear what other groups are talking once you're far enough away. So when you're kind of done with one group conversation, the cluster of people that you're around, you can drag yourself closer to another, listen in and see if you want to join that one or move to another one. So you have this ability to move around pretty easily. So it's something we wanted to try out in this fashion, and this seemed like a good opportunity for that. But again,
so is it like Mozilla Hub, but then just access with desktop?
It's not a 3D environment. It's a purely 2D browser.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
More like
cool. Yeah, sounds cool.
Okay, so I'm going to put you guys back into the. Thank you very much, not both of you, all three of you. It made it a lot easier. I didn't have to answer or ask any questions very much after a while, because you guys were talking about all these subjects. These are important subjects, and I'm happy that they came out organically. Sylvia, Richard, Lance, thank you very much for joining the panel, and look forward to continuing it on spatial.chat in just a minute. So Joris, if you're ready, I'm going to add you here in just a second.
And by the way, Sylvia, Lance, I do hope to meet you someplace and have a beer. So
no hard feelings.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, and Joris, where are you in our list? Here we are. Well, Joris, we have some audio, but it's really fragmented. It's not very much. Yeah. Joris, we can't make out your audio. We can hear a little bit, but it's really distorted, undiscernible. It may not. So Joris, it may not work. What I might suggest is let's try it on spatial.chat, because you can have a video feed on spatial.chat. So maybe we can try it on that platform. It doesn't seem to be working on Crowdcast for whatever reason. It's unfortunate because it definitely was working earlier today when we tried this. Just little bits. Can you hear us, actually? Joris, can you hear us? Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. So I'm not sure what the technical issues were. Again, it was working a little earlier. But then for everyone, let's go ahead and move over to spatial.chat. The link above here, I'll share it again. It's spatial.chat/s/XR crowd. And that's where we're going to be able to continue. So let's all meet up over there. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. And thank you again to our panelists, Sylvia, Richard, and Lance, for sharing their time with us. And so I'm going to end the broadcast in just a few minutes while I let everybody get an opportunity to move over to Spatial. Different group of people you want to talk to?